Guess what, you guys? I have such exciting news, like such exciting news. I've been kind of stalking Coco, and then a lot of people told me, Jill, give her space. Like, she knows what she's doing. She does not need your help. So the last few days would have been her 30th and 31st day gestation. So I knew she would be having her baby soon, and we knew she was bred. So I spent the last few days backing off, being respectful, giving her space, and I came outside this morning to feed and water everybody, and there was so much fur in her nesting box, and she had her babies. You guys, life being born on a farm is one of the most exciting things. Now, I love to grow food. That is my passion. But I have found that I am really enjoying this whole having babies thing. It's so fun. Like, life just happened on our farm, and I got to experience that. And I just loved it so much. I came out here and I've had like this perma-grin on my face all morning. Now I'm still giving her space because when I came by earlier, she was, going over to the nesting box, being protective. Now I know that she will probably bring them out in a few days whenever she feels comfortable, and that's when I'll kind of go in and like get a head count. But right now she's doing well. I'll see if I can't sneak a peek, but I'm really just trying to be respectful. But I got lots of messages from you guys, and I just wanted to let you know she had her babies. So aside from that, really oh, you gonna tell them too? Aside from that really exciting news, it is just an exciting week all around. I am gonna be starting my first seeds. I'm mainly gonna be starting my herbs. Yeah, go see Char Char. Yeah, go see Char Char. I'm also going to be starting all my kales, lettuces, spinaches, things like that I can put out in the early spring. And like for spinach, for me, it takes a really long time to germinate. I've just not really had the best of luck with my spinach for some reason. So I'm going to be starting those things. And I love it. This is the time of year that I just wait for. Like all winter long, I wait for this time right here where I can start doing stuff. I've been going through planning out the garden beds. I also ordered a ton of onions, and so I'm going to take you guys along with me kind of as I clean out the garden beds, plant some onions, start some seeds. And I'm just so excited. I hope you're feeling what I'm feeling right now. If you struggle with the wintertime, I struggle with the lack of sunshine, with the lack of warmth, with just not being outside as much. I don't like that. I don't thrive in those environments. And so whenever I'm given an opportunity, the sun's out today, it's in the 50s, it feels great, I'm able to get my hands in the soil and just do stuff, and it just like brings me back to life. I swear, I have been so like just over the moon all day with Coco's babies being born. Knowing that I'm about to start seeds and plant stuff has me feeling really good. So let's start cleaning out some garden beds. Typically what I do with my onions is I plant them along the sides of my bed, and I do that on most of my beds. And I do that because if you've ever grown onions before, they take up very little space. You buy them in sets, and here's what like a typical set looks like. They're really small, and they just continue to grow up. Obviously they'll bulb, but they don't really interfere with a lot of your other plants. So last year what I did is I just went around all the edges and I planted them in every single bed, and it worked out really well. It took up no space. It didn't bother any of my other plants. And so that is what I'm going to do this year. We have probably tripled our onion crops as I did last year. We bought them late last year at our just our farmer's co-op, and so because we bought them late and we planted them late, it was well into summer, I didn't get huge bulbs, and so we go through a lot of onions, and I've kind of expressed to you guys we're growing a lot of things that we use a lot of. So with that being said, I bought a lot of onions this year. You guys can see I've got 2 trays of these. I have another one inside. I ordered these from Dixondale Farms. I'll link them below. They're kind of known for their onions, and they have really good, the reviews are really well. Majority of my friends grow from Dixondale, so I felt really good about purchasing from them. There's a lot of different varieties. There are short day onions, long day onions, and intermediate onions. And I'm just going to kind of talk to you guys, if you're wanting to grow onions, the difference in the short day and long day onions is actually pretty simple. The short day and long day onions honestly just determine like the hours of daylight that you have. So typically your short day onions, which is majority of what I bought, start to like develop their bulbs when the daylight length is between like 10 and 12 hours. Generally, these are a lot sweeter onions too. I'm not really sure why that is. I like to grow mainly sweet yellow onions anyways. I did just grab some red ones. We kind of have a variety here. I got some white ones as well, but majority of what I bought this year were just short day sweet onions. So the long day onions take a bit longer. Their bulbs won't develop until the daylight has reached like 14 to 16 hours. So you'll just need to figure out like what region that you're in, what actually will work best for you. I actually ended up buying quite a bit of intermediate onions as well. Now I have been told, and just based off of my own research as well, short day onions are better for like immediate use in the kitchen. Long day onions are going to be better if you're wanting to store for a longer period of time. So the intermediate onions that I bought kind of adapt well. They're kind of known for like the lower zones, like 5 or 6. I'm in 7, but they will really kind of adapt in a lot of different atmospheres and climates, and it was what I was recommended to grow by other farmers that I reached out to in my area. The really cool thing about Dixondale is they have a map, and you can kind of figure out where you are on that map, and they'll suggest what type short day, long day, intermediate day onion will grow best in your zone. So that is a really good benefit, and I just spent quite a bit of time. I ended up buying samplers, so I bought short day samplers and intermediate day samplers, and it just came with some sweet, some white, some reds, and I just ordered based off of that, and it kind of just gave me a wide variety. You know, obviously we prefer to cook with the sweet ones, but some recipes call for a white onion or a red onion, and that's something I'm not wanting to have to go to the store and source out. So I just kind of got a nice little sample of everything. And I think it's just a really good idea if you're not sure what you want to grow. Say maybe you've never grown onions before and you're trying to figure out what taste you like better, what thrives well in your environment. Just buy a sampler, try to grow all of them, and just see which one you like the best. So it will take about 100 days for these to mature, and that's just based off of the research that I looked up on their website for the intermediate day onions. So that's when I kind of figure out I will be kind of succession growing these. I'm not going to be planting them all out. I have hundreds of onion seeds, so I'll just slowly each week keep sowing more out. That way I can harvest them at different times. Now, although long day onions are really good for like long-term storage, I will still be able to store these as long as they're cured properly and put in a dry, cool place. I won't be able to store them as long as a long day onion, but I'll still be able to store them. Last year at the co-op, I bought short day onions, and they did just fine being stored. We actually just used up the last of them last week. So they'll still be able to store, especially for the amount of time that we're going to need them. We go through onions so quickly. I'm not needing these to store for over a year or anything like that. I'm just needing them to store long enough to where I can use them during the winter and into the spring until I harvest my next bunch, which I think the short day and intermediate day will be fine. This is something I'm not super experienced in growing onions, so if you guys are or you have more knowledge, absolutely, you may know tricks and trades that are better in a different way. I just know for a beginner, these are kind of the things that I've had to figure out, the ones that I've chose to go with in my growing zone. And what I do is I just take a Dibbler, which I bought this on Amazon. I actually really like it. For the price, it was really good. I'll try to find it and link it for you guys. So I'll just plant these along the edges. The cool thing about Dixondale is it sends you a really good informative sheet on what to do. I received these in a box and they were bound with a rubber band, and it just tells you cut the rubber bands, lay them out in a dry, dark, cool place until you use them. They're typically good. Like if you can't plant them right away, I ordered them out of fear of them not being available. I know a lot of people order from them, they sell out quickly, and so I went ahead and bought them. But the actual onions, like the roots and everything, can dry out and they're still fine. Like, you know, they'll just come back to life. You could even probably have them for like 4 weeks and they still be fine if you replant them. I know that's pretty typical at a co-op too. Most of them dry out. You just gotta bring them back to life when you put them in the soil and water them. Onions thrive and they do really well in raised bed, loose soil. So just make sure that you've amended your beds or done whatever it is you're going to do to your beds before you plant your onions. Same with anything. If you set them up in a good environment and good atmosphere, have soil that is rich, nutrient dense, loose soil, then they're going to thrive. That's with any type of root vegetable that you're growing. You just want to make sure that the soil is loose enough to where it can actually grow a good sized bulb. So with most onions, you will sow them like 4 to 6 weeks before your estimated frost or last frost. So that's something that you'll need to Google. Farmer's Almanac will be able to tell you. Mine is April 17th. Now the Farmer's Almanac has said that we are going to have a really warm spring, and then late summer is going to damper off, which is really, really good, because if I know that we're going to have a warm spring and I'm not worried about that, you know, crazy late March, early April frost that sometimes we get here in Arkansas, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to plant some of these onions and see, as to where typically I wouldn't plant these until about 4 to 6 weeks before I was clear, which would have me planting these out in about March. Anywhere from the end of February for me, I'd plant these out the end of February, beginning of March. Now, since I have so many, like I said, I thought, let's experiment. Let's get some of these in the ground now. Let's see what happens. I already have my PVC pipe on my beds, so if we do have a crazy frost or it gets really cold, I can go ahead and put some frost protection row covers on here, and I think they'll be okay. But typically, you know, this will be the time that if you're wanting to grow onions, you need to start thinking about it, figuring out where you're going to buy them from, getting them in, figuring out if short day, intermediate, long day onions are what you're looking for. And then if you buy plenty, say you get a deal on a sampler and you're in a growing zone where you're not expecting it to get really cold, you don't really have to worry about those hard frosts. Just experiment, see what happens. I think that there's a lot of just joy and kind of figuring out those things, and if you have the liberty to experiment, I think it's just really cool for your reference. These are all things I mention to you guys often. I take detailed notes of what I grow, when I transplant it out, how it did. And so this is one of those things that I'm going to be taking detailed notes. Okay, I sowed these onions out this day in this garden bed, and just see if they develop faster, if the temperature, you know, sowing them out earlier really made a difference or not. So these are things that I just kind of, you know, nerd out on, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool experiment. I want to try it. So I encourage you, if you're in a place where you have the space, you have the seeds of whatever, try it. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't do well. It will still grow an onion. It may just not form as big a bulb, or there may be some issues. But for the most part, I don't think there's anything wrong with just trying. I'm just going to take a few sets. There's probably like 10 or 15 here. So that's really not a lot. And if I end up losing those 10 or 15, I still have plenty to fall back on. So I think it'll just be fun to kind of try it out. So I will be planting my onions 1 inch deep, which the really nice thing about this Dibbler is that it shows you guys. Can you all see that? There you go. So I'll just be planting 1 inch deep, probably about 4 inches apart. Now obviously if you're wanting to harvest these you know, smaller, if you don't necessarily need big bulbs, you can not plant them as far apart. That's kind of just up to your specifications on how big you're wanting your onion to get. But I'm going to go ahead, I want these to be big, so I'm going to do 1 inch deep and 4 inches across. planted about 10. I'll turn you guys around and show you just how little space they take up. I'll be able to plant whatever else I want in these beds, which is really nice. You guys can see I just kind of have them off. Now, one really important thing about onions is as they continue to grow, you'll want to go through and remove the soil from around it just to allow the bulb to continue to grow. Overall, planting onions is really, really easy. It's one of those things. You guys saw June came in and helped me. Usually Charlie helps me, Nathan helps me. It's just kind of a family affair. We all just come out here and tackle it all together. But they take up very, very little space. Most of the time, you know, you'll harvest them and you're just not having to worry about them messing with the other plants that you're growing. And I really encourage you guys, if you're wanting to grow them, and maybe you're intimidated, because I was intimidated to grow onions. I just didn't realize how simple they were. Now, I've never grown onions from seed. That is something I want to try to do next year, but the bulbs are relatively inexpensive. I got a ton of bulbs and it did not cost me very much money at all. Dixondale is a really good place to buy from. So I encourage you guys to check them out. But let's head into the greenhouse because I need to warm up. It is such a beautiful day outside. It's a little windy, but the sun is shining and I'm so happy. It has been getting really, really warm in the greenhouse. The days that it's sunny like this, the greenhouse has been already at like 70 degrees, which is really good for whenever I go to start my plants. Oh yeah. So let's see. Oh yeah, 65 in here. It's so warm in here. I'm just like sitting in here basking in the sun. Oh, this is my favorite part about the greenhouse. It's like my own little personal sunshine oasis. So I've been trying to come in here, aside from getting warm, to come up with a game plan. We are going to be bringing in some compost and super soil and making beds underneath the tables for like my lettuce and stuff like that, because I can still be growing lettuce while I still have tomato starts in here, which is really nice. And I'm trying to move my seed starting supplies from the other greenhouse in here. Typically what I do is I have this huge tote that I get from like Home Depot, and I keep all my soil in there. I'll need to be bringing that out here along with all my trays. And yeah, in just a few short days I'll be starting my herbs and some, you know, spring lettuce and kales and stuff like that, and I'm just really excited. I love being able to share my life with you guys. I love being able to encourage you. When you guys comment and you send me emails and you are just engaged with us and you tell us how much we encourage you to grow food or homestead or maybe start on an adventure or dream things that you never thought were possible to dream, it means a lot to us. I know I thank you guys a lot. And I do that because I truly want you to know how much we value you guys. We are living a life that I only dreamed of in my wildest dreams. And I know that I'm able to do this hugely because of you guys, because y'all support our family and you support what we do, and it means so much. And I don't think I'll ever get to a place where I quit being completely in awe of the life I live. And I want that for you guys. I want you guys to experience goodness in your life and abundance in your gardens and with your families and the dreams that you're dreaming and the goals that you're reaching for. And I just know that I am living my best life because of y'all, and I just want you guys to know that I have so much gratitude for you guys and how you support our family and how you love us well. It really does mean a lot being able to just share our ups and our downs, and when Coco gives birth, being able to take you guys along for that. When I start seeds for the first time or plant the garden, like, I get to just show you guys my life. And sometimes I think that we forget how really cool of an experience that is, to know that like you guys care about us and you're invested in our family and what we do and what our farm stands for and represents. And I wouldn't imagine not taking you guys along in this journey with us. We truly do appreciate you guys just coming along for the adventure, for hanging out with our family and seeing what we're up to. I love showing you guys new things that are going on, things that we're trying to tweak and things like that. But thank you guys for hanging out with me today as I planted some experimental onions. Stay tuned. We'll see how they do. I'll keep you guys updated next week on the vlog. Maybe we will have better views at Coco. I really just wanted to respect her and give her some space because she just had babies, and that's worth giving her some space. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon.